Today's date is April 19th, 2026. My name is Julia Dubler. I'm an 8th grade student at Bicultural Hebrew Academy of Connecticut. I will be interviewing my grandmother, whose name is Marjorie Keller, and about her life and legacy. This interview is being recorded for the oral history collection of the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County Archives, as well as our family archives. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I will ask you questions that will help me learn more about you and your family's history, especially our Jewish history. If you can't answer a question, just say so and we can move on to the next one. Also, if you would rather not answer a question for any reason, just tell me that. I want this to be fun for you to feel comfortable at all times. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Let's start with you telling my full name. Your full name.
My full name. I was born Rosenberg, then became Menzen, and now my name is Marjorie Ann Keller.
Mm-hmm. Who were you named after, if you know?
I was named after my father, whose name was Morris Rosenberg. I was named after his father, whose name was Maximilian. So they took the first letter of his name and used it for a girl, M, so I am Marjorie.
Do you have a Hebrew name, and what is it?
My Hebrew name is Miriam.
Cool. In this class, I have been learning about the immigration of Jews to the U.S. and other places. Do you know where your parents or family immigrated from?
My parents were born in America, so they did not immigrate.
Okay. Before they immigrated to the United States, did they talk about what it was like before they left? Do you have any stories about your Jewish life there?
Okay, so as I said, my parents were both born in the United States. Are there going to be questions about my grandparents, if they immigrated? Okay. Yeah. So therefore, my grandparents were from Poland and Russia. I can't remember which is which. I'm pretty sure my mother's family came from Russia and my father's family came from Poland. And no, they never really talked about what it was like when they lived in Europe. I would imagine they had to leave for pogroms, for the war, and Jews were not treated well. But they came to this country and started a life here. Both of them came and ended up in Brooklyn. My father's mother came by way of London, England, and then they came to this country.
Did your parents or anyone in your family experience, or were they affected by the Holocaust? How so?
No, fortunately for our family, no one that I know of in my distant family either ever talked about being part of the Holocaust. No.
Can you tell me anything about our family's immigration to the United States?
The only thing that I can remember is that my father's mother, who was a Rosenberg, went by way of London, and they lived in London. And my father's brother, who was 8 years older, was born in London, and then they came here, and my father was born here. That's really all I have ever been told, I should say. I don't know anything else.
Mm-hmm. This is a great background. Thank you. Now I would like you to take up the items you brought to talk about today. Or if you have.
Okay. So one of the important things that I have is, if you can see it, can you see this tiny, tiny little Jewish star?
No. Scroll down. No,
Oh.
up. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a teeny tiny little Jewish star, which I think you and your sister have too. I think I bought for you. I know your mom I bought. So this is a very special piece for me. I was 6 years old, and my grandma Clara gave one to my sister Beth and one to me. So I've been wearing this my whole life since I'm 6 years old, and it's very, very special to me. And over the years, I have bought it. I found it at a jewelry store, and I have bought it for all my children and grandchildren. And the other thing, you want me to show you another artifact that's special to me?
Sure.
So this ring,
Yeah, we can see it.
it's a very beautiful, and the setting, I have been told, is a very beautiful, special, ancient, not ancient, old, 100-year-old setting, because it belonged to my grandma Clara Horowitz, who was my mother's mother. And I remember as a little girl, she always wore it on her pinky. I wear it on my ring finger, and it's still too big. I have a guard on it, but she had bigger hands than me, and she always wore it on her pinky, even when she was cooking. And as a little girl, I used to always like to touch it and look at it. And when my grandma Clara passed away, my mother started wearing it. And when my mother passed away, I got it and I wear it. And it's important to me because it reminds me of both my grandmother, my grandma Clara, and my mom.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a family photograph? If it's okay, it's not.
Yes. So this is a very special one to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, can you see it?
I remember that one.
Yep. So the very beautiful girl in white is your mother, Lindsay. The tall boy is Jason. The little boy is Jonathan. And those are my children. And this was taken at my son Jason's bar mitzvah. So, and it's my parents. Yeah. And those are my picture of my mother and father. So this is a very beautiful, special picture for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love this one.
Mm-hmm. Now I would like to ask you a few questions about your life growing up.
Okay.
Where did you grow up, and who lived with you growing up?
Okay. I moved a great deal growing up. So I'll start from the beginning. I was born in an apartment in Stuyvesant Town, which is in Manhattan. And at that point, since I was the second born to my parents, Morris and Florence Rosenberg, I lived there with the firstborn, who was my sister, Beth. So Beth and I are only 10.5 months apart, so you can imagine 2 little babies in the small apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we moved to Detroit, Michigan. Again, it was just my parents and Beth and I. And we lived there until I was maybe 5. Oh, I left Manhattan when I was 3. And we left Detroit because I believe my parents really missed Brooklyn and seeing their mothers. Both of my parents lost their fathers when they were teenagers. I think my mom was 16 and my dad was 18. So the grandmothers lived alone, and when my parents went to Detroit, Michigan, the grandparents were still in Brooklyn. So we were going to move back to Brooklyn, but while we were doing that, we went by way of Florida, and we lived in Florida for about 9 or 10 months. And my sister and I were going to school. I was in nursery, she was in kindergarten. And then we moved to Brooklyn. And it was still only my mother and father and Beth and I who lived in Brooklyn. And I lived there until I was about 11. And then we moved to Long Island, to the South Shore of Long Island, to a place called Merrick. And at that point in Merrick, my brother, Richard, was born. So in Merrick, it was my mom, my dad, Beth, me, and Richard. And then from Merrick, we moved to Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. And these moves took place because my father's business had him move. He worked with his older brother, and the company moved a couple of times. So then we moved to Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. Again, in that house was my mom, my dad, Beth, me, and Richard. And I should just add that that was the last place that I lived before I got married. And then when I got married, I lived more places. Then when I got married to your grandpa, who was Sheldon Menzin, we called him Shelley, he and I moved to Dublin, Ireland, and I lived there for about 3.5 years because he was going to medical school at the Royal College of Surgeons in Dublin. And I worked at at Trinity College in the School of Pathology because I was asked to set up the first electron microscopy lab in the School of Pathology. It was a very exciting, wonderful time for me. After he graduated, we moved back to the United States, and it was just the two of us at that point, and we lived in Forest Hills, New York. And then eventually I had my first child, who was Jason Menzin, your uncle, and after that, about 2 years and 2 months later, I had your beautiful mom, my little girl, Lindsay Menzin, and then 18 months later, I had my wonderful little Jonathan Menzin. So in Forest Hills, it was Shelley, it was me, Jason, Lindsay, and Jonathan. And after that, we all moved to a house on Long Island, in Roslyn, Long Island, on the North Shore, and we lived there for 27 years. And then Shelley passed away. I stayed at the house for a couple of years, and then I myself, by myself, moved to an apartment in Great Neck and lived there for, I think, 3 years. And then my husband, who I'm married to now, Stephen Keller, married me, and we moved to White House Station, New Jersey, to a little apartment for about a year. And after that, we moved to a beautiful big house with a lot of land and a pool and a hot tub in Califon, New Jersey. And after 5 years there, I moved to my present place, which is a very, very nice condo, again, back in White House Station, New Jersey. So those are all my moves.
Yeah. What was life like? Tell me something about school life. Who was your favorite teacher? Favorite subject? My favorite subject is probably science. Yeah.
Oh, how fantastic. My favorite subject was always science. From very, very early on, I found it just interesting and wonderful. And then, I think it was 7th grade, I had a teacher who inspired me so much so that I knew this was going to be my path straight through. And it did become that. So, those were the two important events for me. And my college, my graduate degree are all in biology. I worked in science and medical related fields, and I was always happy working. I loved it. It made me very, very successful and very happy.
When you were a teenager, did you have a bat mitzvah?
Okay, unfortunately, I did not. And the reason for that is as follows. My sister and I used to go to Hebrew school, and we had, when we lived in Brooklyn, but then when we moved to Merrick, Long Island, our Jewish girlfriends didn't go to Hebrew school, and we felt, oh, 3 days a week we have to leave our girlfriends after public school. So my sister and I ganged up on my mother and begged her to let us stop, which was a mistake, I understand, but we did. We asked her if we can stop. So 1 year before our bat mitzvahs, we stopped. So I was never bat mitzvahed, and as an adult, I never went back to get bat mitzvahed. No.
Mhm. What was most? Oh, no. Choose a question. Now, I would like you to pick your favorite Jewish holiday and describe how you and your family celebrated it when you were a child.
Easy. My favorite holiday is Passover. I think because it's all done in the house and there's no services outside the house. And I love all the food. I love all the preparation. I love the happiness of it. And as a child growing up, we always had Passover either at my grandma Clara's oldest brother's house, or then my mother started doing it, and she always had a big crowd, and the grandmothers would always stay with us for weeks at a time during the year, but also during holidays. So the three of them were in the kitchen cooking, mainly my mother and her mother, cooking and cooking and cooking, tons of cooking. So I learned to see that. I never cooked myself then, but I watched it. And then when I got married and had my house in Roslyn, I started doing Passover, which I loved, but my mother would always do part of it. My mother and father would come and stay with me with a big box filled with stuff that they were going to use for the Seder. And doesn't matter how many people I'm going to have. If I have 18 or 8, I cook the same quantity of food. And it's a beautiful holiday because it also focuses on children asking questions and being talked to and singing. So yes, Passover is, of the holidays, that's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Now I would like to talk about our family Jewish traditions. My favorite one is when I make Habantations for Purim and lighting Shabbat candles. What was yours?
I think the most important one and meaningful one for me is lighting Shabbat candles. I've never stopped doing it. I love doing it, and it brings me blessings on Shabbat.
Did anyone in your family serve in the military?
Yes, my father served in the military, and when he passed away, I actually was given his flag, which I mounted in a beautiful case. He was in the Army. I don't think he ever served overseas, but he did serve. And your grandfather, Grandpa Shelley, served in the U.S. public health system. Again, he served as a doctor because he was a physician and he was a captain. And when he passed away, I have his captain's hat and the epaulets that they wear on their shoulders. So those are the two people that I know of that served.
Mm-hmm. How did you meet my grandpa?
So I met Grandpa, you mean Grandpa Shelley?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was the first day of college, and the very first day I walked into chemistry lab, and I didn't know what we were doing in there, and there was a boy in the corner at a table by himself, already working, setting everything up. The rest of us looked like we didn't know what the heck to do. So I went over to him and I said, because the teacher had said you could have partners. So I went over to him. I was afraid, but I went over to him and I said, can I be your partner? And he said yes. And that was the first time I met him. And over the next 2 years, we became really good friends, not boyfriend or girlfriend, just really good friends. We used to study together. He would take me out to eat. he was 3 years older than me, so he was more experienced with dating than I was. And he had a car because I lived at school. He lived at home. His home was not too far from the school. And that's how I met him.
Mm-hmm. What did you do? What did you do to make your living in your adult life?
I always worked in medical research. So the very first job that I had straight out of college, my husband now, Stephen Keller, got me a job at Lenox Hill Hospital, which is a very famous hospital in New York City. And I worked in histochemistry. And after, I guess, a year or so, the girl who did the electron microscopy, which was doing research with an electron microscope, asked me if she could train me secretly. I used to go at lunchtime because she was planning on leaving and she didn't want to leave them with nobody. So then when she was getting ready to leave to move to Hawaii, I was hired. I left histochemistry and started doing electron microscopy. And I did that until I moved to Dublin, Ireland, where I did electron microscopy. And then when we came home, I worked at Cornell Medical Center doing the same thing until my son Jason was born. And I said, oh, I'll go right back after he is 6 months old. And lo and behold, I didn't go back.
What invention do you think had the biggest impact on your life? Why did you choose this invention?
I think probably computers.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it gave me access to people other than the phone. It gave me the ability to look up information, um, to, to get emails and texts and research things. And of course, having the chat bots now, I can do even more research quicker. And but I think initially the computer for me was the most meaningful invention.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to wrap up with one more question.
Okay.
What advice do you have for future generations like me?
Like you. If I had to give advice, and I have given this advice, I think you have to love yourself, who you are, what you do, how you behave to people. You have to love yourself first before somebody can love you. Anybody, your friends, your family, your workers, your bosses. And the other part of the advice I would give, try hard, even though you're young, to figure out something that you love to do. Like I figured out science made me happy. Because if you can, and if it's possible to pursue that direction, then going to work every day when you're a grown-up won't be a job, it'll be fun. And you'll be happy to get up in the morning and go to work. And we have to be very careful now with AI taking over so many white-collar jobs. We have to be very careful giving advice. We, meaning grandparents and parents, we have to be careful giving advice where to direct you so AI doesn't take away your jobs. But those are the two things. Love yourself and love what you do. Be pure in your heart. And that's my advice to you, my darling Julia.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to end it.